Good afternoon. It's Monday, 27th of July, 2026, just after 1 o'clock UK time. You're watching UK Column News. I'm your host, Ben Rubin, and I'm delighted to be joined in the studio today by Mr. Brian Gerrish. Hi, Brian.
My pleasure.
How are you doing?
Very well after a wonderful weekend. So a break is always a very good thing.
It certainly is. So we've got a packed schedule today. We'll be looking at the corporate takeover of the British state via the Regulatory Innovation Office, the Institute for Government's plans to reorder the British state behind the scenes, how local councils are targeting communities across the UK, the parlous state of public broadcasting, and the soft coup which has taken place over the past few weeks, which leads us very neatly onto Andy Burnham.
Andy Burnham, well, you're absolutely right, Ben. The new Prime Minister comes across as just a nice guy who's in a job but maybe a bit out of his depth, but actually a lot more happening. So we thought we'd kick off with an interview by Laura Kuenssberg from the BBC, and quite a lot emerged in this interview. We've obviously just taken some clips, but let's join in from the beginning, as it were.
Hi, Laura.
Hiya, what took you so long?
Oh, like to make an entrance.
The duly elected leader of the Labour Party is Andy Burnham.
So Andy Burnham's on stage at the moment. He's just been named as a leader, but I've got to whisper because we're actually just right backstage.
Ushered in by Labour and elected by the wider public,
Come with me.
we've been up close with the new Prime Minister in his first week in power, able at last to question his plans for home and abroad.
Okay.
Hi. I think we're going to have a wee chat.
I do feel ready. I do feel that this is the moment.
So Andy Burnham hasn't been elected by the whole country.
Well, there we are. Just a little taster there so that we can make a bit of comment on it. But of course, Andy Burnham, he's on stage. And I think that's appropriate because what you're watching is a complete play. He is play acting. What's really taking place under all of the music and self-congratulatory clapping is a coup. There's no doubt about this. It might appear soft, but underneath there's definitely the iron fist in the velvet glove, as it were. And what's a shame with that audience for Andy Burnham is they weren't actually in uproar. But a comment on Laura Kuenssberg, first of all, if we pop her on screen, because what this lady did not do is ask any of the key questions. So she sat in a new equipped building, very polished, with this 10 North logo strapped everywhere. And it was as if it was completely normal. She had no questions to ask about the significance of it. She didn't ask where it came from. She didn't ask what this new building represented. And she certainly didn't ask where it will lead. So is she unintelligent? No, I don't think so. I think she's an intelligent lady, but completely out of her depth here. She was drawn in by the razzmatazz of the stage show by Andrew Burnham, and she had no analysis as to what was going on at all. Now, we're going to dig into the interview a little bit more, and the second clip that I've chosen is when Andy Burnham was asked a difficult question on the subject of immigration.
Okay, when it gets to difficult decisions, the public in the last couple of decades have, in many cases, felt that politicians haven't listened to them when it comes to decisions about immigration. Under the current government plans, the suggestion is that people in this country legally, migrants, might have to wait 10 years or perhaps more before they are allowed to stay. Will you carry on with that plan?
Well, that proposal has been under consultation.
And what's your view as the new Prime Minister?
Well, I come in and I am listening to people's views and we'll come to a fair resolution. I think the worry that people have is the feeling that it's out of control and that we don't have a grip as a country, and therefore we don't have the right procedures in place.
So you might look again, though you're not persuaded that that's the right plan? Because people might be
I
worried
am
about that.
Going to look at what's been said during the consultation. And I mentioned social care before, and I see people contributing to our society by working in social care, who've in many cases come from around the world to work there or work in the NHS. I don't think people actually say that is something that we don't want. We want people, when they're here and making a contribution, to be able to be, if you like, supported
but
and
you said
welcomed
clearly
here.
you're not yet persuaded that is the right way to go. So that people will be
Well,
interested.
I'm looking
to
at the
hear
consultation. I think
Yeah.
it's fair enough for me to say 4 days into the job, where there has been discussions going on, that I kind of come in, look at the situation and say, right, let me see what people are saying, let me see the balance of the arguments. I think people would expect me to bring a new pair of eyes to these issues and find where the fairness is and the right point of balance.
Well, Ben, I'm going to come to you. To me, there was a lot of waffle in answering that question. What was your take?
Did he answer that question?
No.
I don't think he did
No, he
answer
didn't.
that question. No, it's a very long-winded way of saying not much at all. And just talking about process, basically. So he doesn't have a policy, he doesn't have any ideas of his own, doesn't have an opinion, doesn't have any data to refer to. So he's just talking about process. And also this idea that, you got to cut me some slack. I'm only 4 days into the job. Well, if you're the man for the job and you're leading the country, you need to be able to lead the country straight out the gate. Surely, particularly if you've been a top-tier politician for the past 20 years, you would expect that.
You would expect that. And of course, he's sat in this huge complex, set up 300 civil servants due to move in the next couple of weeks or so. All of this pre-thought out, pre-organised.
Mm-hmm.
He's absolutely on the ball there. But when he gets asked a question which even Laura Kunzberg herself says, many people deeply concerned about immigration effectively out of control, he doesn't want to answer that. And the interesting thing in the answer he does give, coming back to the point, we've got these people from all across the world involved in social care and the NHS. Only minutes earlier, he was busy talking about how the NHS was such a shambles, it was going to collapse. Maybe part of that is because a lot of people don't speak English in the NHS. So he was not going to answer that question, and he was winding and deflecting all over the place. There was only one subject that he got motivated about, and where he gave opinion directly to the camera in that interview. What was that one subject? Let's have a look.
One of the things that is also on your desk is a conflict on the edge of our continent. The Ukraine war rages on. Would you take a call from Vladimir Putin?
I would have to know the circumstances in which that was being requested. So it's hard to answer that question directly. I would obviously want to, first and foremost, take my lead from the person that I would want to hear from, who would be President Zelensky, who will be coming here. I look forward to welcoming him. Again, I pay tribute to the former Prime Minister, who gave him huge personal support. He will get exactly the same from me. I would do nothing, absolutely nothing, to undermine him in the conflict in which he is in. My support for Ukraine is unwavering. It is 100%. And I will do what in Ukraine people think is the right thing that they need. They will have in me a loyal support, and I would do nothing that cuts across that position.
So it didn't matter what subject he was asked originally, or in giving answer, the same waffle, moving away from the real issue, except with Ukraine, where he says he's so dedicated, he's going to do anything and everything that President Zelensky may ask him or ask him for. And also, he's not going to speak to President Putin should that major power call Andy Burnham as Prime Minister. He's not going to answer that phone
Without
call.
permission.
Without permission
sounds of
from
it.
Zelensky. Now, what comes into my mind here was David Cameron in his early days when he said, "My belief in Israel is unshakable. And what he was effectively saying is that the United Kingdom came second to Israel in his mind. And now we are being told very clearly it doesn't matter what the issue is in UK. The primary issue for Burnham is Ukraine, and that means war. So if there are any of the old style socialists out there, this man is a whole new cup of tea, as we will see in today's news. Now, what's Andy Burnham going to do to deal with Russia and to deal with Iran, supposedly? Well, of course, let's have a look at what Wes Streeting had to say in another little interview clip.
Is it your understanding that Iran could target the UK? Does it have that capability?
Look, I think we shouldn't put too much stock in the sabre rattling of Iran, and we certainly shouldn't be intimidated by what the regime has said this week. We haven't joined offensive action against Iran. We have taken part in defensive action to support UK people, personnel, interests and our allies, and we will continue to do so.
Okay.
But we stand ready to respond to any attacks that Iran wishes to wage against this country or our allies, and we will continue to do that.
Okay. Sabre rattling by Russia, firing live rounds on the day Andy Burnham was appointed. What can you do to prevent the Russians doing that again?
Well, there are established protocols for those sorts of exercises, and we were tracking Russia throughout the day. I think what we saw from Russia was performative, but also it's a reminder of the frankly unsafe and unprofessional way in which they've been conducting themselves. We think the Kremlin are irresponsible, and we're not going to put too much stock in that particular gesture on that particular day. What we do know is that every single day Russia poses a threat to UK security. We've seen that publicly. As the public, we don't see the enormous efforts that take place every day to counter Russian aggression.
So more of a long-winded waffle. What's your thought on Wes there? Do you think he's going to frighten Putin?
My thought coming out of that was that we're just not a serious country anymore, actually. If that's our defence secretary, I'm sure Putin is quaking in his boots.
To hear Wes lisping his way through his strongman act. Well, there's a lot more to come on this, and we're going to move into the depths of what's really happening around Andy Burnham, and be under no illusions this man is going to completely change, destroy the United Kingdom.
Yeah, that's
over to you, Ben.
Certainly seems to be the direction of travel. And actually, I think this probably ties in quite nicely to our old friends over at Common Purpose. And Common Purpose was a term that Andy Burnham used in his inaugural speech outside of Downing Street last week. It was a short speech, 5 or 6 minutes long, delivered without notes. Do you remember when David Cameron used to do that at the party conferences, and it was kind of his party trick? You think we're going to be treated to this on a regular basis?
I think we will, because Burnham's going to do anything and everything he can to try and capture the public mind.
Exactly. So he was talking about Common Purpose on the steps of Downing Street, and then he went back into Downing Street, and this image was shared by Antonia Romeo, or actually it's Romeo, sorry, should I say, who is the Cabinet Secretary, head of the Civil Service. And she talked about Common Purpose as well. I thought it was really interesting. There's a theme emerging here. And she said that today, Andy Burnham has accepted His Majesty the King's invitation to form a government. In his first speech from Downing Street, the new Prime Minister committed to outline a new 10-year plan for the country and a focus on collaborative problem solving. They love a collaboration. Is it a collaboration or a conspiracy? We asked that last week. I know what I think. Building a more preventative state and a national sense of unity, of common purpose and positivity. Now, Mrs. Romeo, I will get that right at some point, has talked about common purpose a lot before. And she's been on the column previously as well, including way back in 2017, where she was talking about common purpose. So this was a report that Mike delivered, and we'll provide a link in the show notes. You can go and watch it to see what she was up to. She was our trade envoy to the US, one of them based in New York. And she was talking about this work helping the department coalesce around a common purpose. And this term crops up again and again, and I'm fairly sure that it relates to this organisation. We can't prove this conclusively, but Common Purpose is the supposed political charity that was set up in the late 80s, actually. It's been going
about
for
85.
Yeah, exactly. So it's been going for quite some time now, which is about building networks of future leaders across the different component parts of the British system, whether that's in the public, private, or in third sectors, breaking down silos between organisations, essentially leading the way for a completely new political and economic structure to be constituted in our society.
Absolutely.
And they're still at it.
They are still at it. We should remember that in Tony Blair's era, when the Deputy Prime Minister Prescott had his office, he shared that with Common Purpose. So at the heart of the Labour government, but also David Cameron fully involved with Common Purpose as an organisation as well, particularly in India.
Absolutely, which, as we know, is a crucial focal point for developing the governance systems for the new global order that we're being migrated into. Now, importantly, I will just flag this up because I think there's something here that needs to be examined, right? Which is that the term common purpose is also used by Freemasons. So the United Grand Lodge of England hosted their tercentenary celebration in 2017. It's a very, very heavily scripted and tightly planned event where the term common purpose is used and discussed because Masons act with common purpose. They're working towards the same goals. And I do note that there is a checkerboard pattern on the stage there, which you can see, which is very common in Masonic lodges, actually. So this is actually inside the United Grand Lodge of England. You can see the checkerboard pattern there, as well as various portraits and other paraphernalia that appear in these lodges. If we can flip back to that image from Downing Street that I showed at the beginning of this segment, we can see that there is actually a checkerboard floor inside Downing Street as well. And no doubt it's heavily imbued with other types of symbology across the entire estate, I should imagine.
Lots of questions to be asked, but what we're seeing more and more is a collaboration between people and organisations, and clearly that a collaborative network has got a control network operating through it and alongside it. So
absolutely, and it is tightening its grip as we speak. It's what we're watching, what we're living through right now. So we've talked about Downing Street. Let's head up to number 10 North. So this again from Antonia Romeo. Image shared on LinkedIn with the fake number 10 door in the background. I mean, everything's a stage for these people, isn't it?
This is a psyop, Ben, because where are people's mind focused? They know number 10, home of the Prime Minister, and now we've got that door paraded as if it's completely normal. This is a fictional setting. We're watching a sort of political EastEnders play out here. And Burnham, of course, is right in the middle of it. So when we get into a bit more detail about what he's got planned, I think people will understand what this door means in its location in Manchester.
Absolutely, yes. And what they got going on up there. So very excited post from Antonia Romeo saying that we're live from number 10 North. And the opening of number 10 North brings the levers of local economic growth and devolution together into what the PM describes as the situation room for growth. So this is that merger of state and corporate power structures, right? Really bringing the local economic growth and devolution together. So local economic growth, devolution is local governance, bringing those things together into this situation room for growth. That's what Burnham's describing this as. And she then goes on to say, this is allowing government departments, combined authorities and businesses to work together collaboratively. And I think that little statement at the end there is basically a smoking gun for this, to put to bed this idea that devolution is about disseminating power out into the country.
For people, disseminating it for people.
Exactly, because that's not what's happening in number 10 North. You can see that government departments, i.e. central government departments, and the combined authorities, which is this metro mayor system, and businesses are going to be working together collaboratively. So in the regions, central government is going to be in the room. This is what we've been talking about for years now.
Yeah.
Playing out right in front of our eyes.
None of this debated in the House at all. So
No.
MPs have no clue as to what's really happening under the surface, because the parliamentary briefing sheets are just going to come out as if this is normal. When were the plans put in place for the transition of government from Westminster to number 10 in Manchester?
Yeah.
This clearly hasn't just happened on the back of Andy Burnham's thoughts, his manifesto. This is something that's been planned and calculated and planned for a very long time.
It certainly has. And the lease for the building was actually signed about a month before he was even brought in as PM as well. So this whole thing is completely planned ahead of time. And importantly, just to kind of reiterate this point that we talk about a lot, this merger of state and corporate power is essentially a fascist system. So we can get that back on screen. This is a fascist power grab.
Yeah.
A fascist reconstitution of the state. And just to wrap this up, we're going to be seeing lots of images like this up in number 10 North. And I just wanted to draw people's attention to Angela Rayner. There she is, back at the cabinet table. She got some new specs, making her look a lot more respectable and adding, 10, 15 IQ points to her potentially.
A little bit intellectual, a bit geeky. Got to be there alongside Andy Burnham, because he's got a pretty impressive pair of specs as well.
He certainly does.
In with the glasses crowd.
Exactly.
Well,
right.
If we dig deeper into this, Ben, we have to come back to the Institute of Government, who I've mentioned several times, because if you look at the updates they give, it's very, very interesting. What they talk about seems always to be just ahead of what's happening. So this is their headline here: the next Prime Minister. How can Andy Burnham hit the ground running? Well, he didn't hit the ground running. He hit the ground racing, accelerating away, because clearly what he's now using, the facilities of number 10 up north, this was created some time ago. But lots of clues from the Institute of Government. And just remember that this organisation, funded by Lord Sainsbury's, millions gone into this in order to shape political power. But these are some of the points that the Institute of Government talks about, that Andy Burnham should be thinking about creating a new office for the Prime Minister and Cabinet. So they say this will be a very bold move and he needs to do this. This is going straight back, as I say, to Tony Blair and the office of the Deputy Prime Minister under John Prescott, and that office was shared by Common Purpose at the time. Then we've got turn number 10 into a ceremonial building. This is the destruction now of the Constitution, because number 10 from a seat of government is just to be turned into a ceremonial building. And if the Institute of Government is making this as a suggestion, we can be sure that actually Andy Burnham's already been told that this is what he is looking at. So is this a suggestion or a policy? I think we're actually dealing with policy. And if we go on through, we've got an important one here: don't split the Treasury. There's been much speculation. The Institute of Government says that the next Prime Minister will move to break up the Treasury, deliberately diluting its oversized influence over the government. This would be the wrong choice. The focus should instead be on bolstering the number 10 operation, giving it strength and influence to match the Treasury. So this is money and power coming together. But of course, at the end of the day, he who pays the piper calls the tune. So we can be sure that if the number 10 operation is to sit closer to the financial power base, it's ultimately going to be that financial power base that's in control. But it goes on. There is a lot of this. They ask, what can Burnham do to make his devolution plans a success? And one of the key answers to that is be clear-eyed about what number 10 North is really for. And it says it shouldn't duplicate the London functions, two sets of advisors claiming to speak for the same Prime Minister, but failing to speak to each other. No, so this has all got to be cemented together in one power base. And Andy Burnham has said several times that he is going to deliver the biggest change in our lifetime, And UK Column News says he's absolutely telling the truth because, Ben, as you've said, this is a coup. And essentially what you've got is a fascist state building itself here. So we are being very upfront on this because too many people think that there is a bit of a joke going on at the moment. The Institute goes on. It says make number 10 North a strategic centre for devolution. Here's this constant focus back on devolution. And of course, it's going to be England that is at the centre of this, but also national devolution. So this is not further devolution of Scotland or Wales or even Northern Ireland. This is the breaking up of England into ever smaller fractions, which means ever less power for England as a state in its own right and ever greater government control. So this is the line to remember, that it's England that is now going to be taken apart. And of course, if the political power base is taken out of London, number 10 is just made some tourist attraction, then essentially we are left with the capital city, we could say, of England, but certainly of the United Kingdom, is going to be what? An international superstate city just to be governed by its mayor. Is that where they're heading, do you think, Ben?
Yeah, and a kind of madhouse casino in the city of London that funds the whole thing.
Indeed. So we're going to follow through this so that you can see just how much Lord Sainsbury and his team was putting forward. So we've got another one here. Appoint a senior political figure to head number 10 North. As Prime Minister, Burnham will not have time to manage number 10's North's political relationships with ministers in Whitehall, MPs and elected mayors and councillors, many of whom will come from opposition parties. He needs a trusted deputy, either a chief secretary to the Prime Minister or a more senior deputy Prime Minister, here it's coming in again, to take on much of the political load, broker compromises and exercise delegated power on his behalf. So the system of governance is to be disrupted in this country. Number 10, as it stands, to be undermined. This new number 10 North to come in. And then Andy Burnham is going to build this empire around himself where he's further and further isolated from any sort of accountability or in fact, responsibility.
Yes, indeed. And just layers and layers and layers of bureaucracy.
Indeed.
So actually, at the outset of the segment, one of the recommendations was to create an office of the Prime Minister in the Cabinet, because the Cabinet office is too stretched at the moment, or it's in disarray, so we need a new thing. But isn't the office of the Prime Minister in the Cabinet what the Cabinet office is supposed to be?
Indeed.
So, but we're just going to add more stuff into the mix.
And we also reported, UK Columns reported over many years, the huge increase in the number of civil servants operating around the Cabinet office. The last figure I remember was somewhere up around 7,500, and that was on the increase. Now we're going to duplicate the systems, but don't worry, when the synthesis finally arrives, you're just going to be left with this presidential power around Andy Burnham, which he's going to call socialism. But as you've said, I think a better description is fascism. So we just put a label on that slide, and that is, we can see that they are desperate to get a deputy prime minister in post. And if the deputy prime minister is in post, just as with John Prescott under Tony Blair, we can be pretty sure common purpose is going to be back in the mainstream arena. So we'll bring in this one as well, handling extreme scrutiny. And apparently recently, Burnham said, you can scrutinize us, you can ask us anything you want. But then very quickly it became clear that that was only if his team remained in control of the question. So here is Burnham and his team pulling themselves away from any form of accountability. You might choose to ask him penetrating questions, but as you've seen with the BBC, he's going to give waffle, and you're probably not going to get an answer. All the questions going to be dismissed. So moving on, and this comes back to you because we've got Antonia here, Romeo, review of the civil service. Not only are we going to change everything to do with the political side, we're also going to get this disruptive agenda into the civil service in order to break it down, reform it, remold it in the Burnham centralised power system at number 10 North. So I've deliberately said that this is change and control of the civil service, but the real word is disrupt, and Andy Burnham uses this word because the disruption and the confusion is actually used in order to confuse not only the people in the civil service, but those looking in from the public as to what's actually taking place. And another report from the Institute government here just simply stresses that he needs to be clear-eyed about the purpose of his Manchester office. So they're saying, effectively, I think you know your instructions, make sure you knuckle down and get on with it. But if I bring in a little bit more, this is some of the questions around constitutional change, create a public mandate for constitutional change, give the Commons control over its agenda and sitting, learn the lessons of electoral reform. This is all about massive change to the Constitution, because as we've said on the news before, they have to break down the English Constitution and English common law if they are to fully install this new superstate. And of course, if you're going to have complete control over people, that's from birth to death. And the Institute of Government getting very excited here because they're saying, Mr. Burnham, you're going to need citizens' assemblies in order to help force through assisted dying. So here's the new Burnham regime. It's not about living and well-being and people looking after each other. What they're worried about is, can we get more people effectively to kill themselves more quickly in order to help the state? And if you think you're going to protest about what's happening, they're desperately trying to get a step ahead of this by creating a new national police force. And the Institute of Government here saying this is the right move, but the case for merging local forces is weaker. Now think about what they're saying there. We don't want to just merge forces into some sort of bigger regional system. No, we want to go straight to the national system. And that, of course, is what's needed for a full-blown dictatorship. Now, we've got a little video clip here, which was sent in to us. It's from the interview, but one of UK column viewers said, very interesting that when Burnham was asked a difficult question, he starts touching his face. It's a very defensive posture. Let's have a look, and you can see whether you think our viewer was correct.
Minister, and our time is almost up, but you say you coming to power will be the biggest change this country's seen in 4 decades. Thing is, 25,000 people voted for you in Makerfield. The 48 million people in the electorate in this country haven't had a chance to have a say on any of your plans. Do you rule out having a general election?
Well,
that was quite a good question.
It was a good question, and I think our viewer was absolutely right. Suddenly, you started to see nerves there in Andy Burnham because the challenge was spot on. Nobody's voted for this man, and this man is talking about bringing in the biggest constitutional changes this country has seen in a great many years. So immensely dangerous individual, in my opinion, Ben.
I would tend to agree with that. And I think the Institute of Government link-up is really, really important because Lord Sainsbury, who funds the Institute for Government, has been one of the key architects of Manchesterism and this drive towards urbanisation of the UK, whether that's through the Centre for Cities or Metro Dynamics. There's a whole bunch of organisations that have been pushing that agenda forward over the past 30 years. Lord Sainsbury is absolutely in the mix. So when the IFG says something, you absolutely know that they've got a direct line to Burnham, and it's almost certainly going to appear in policy at some point in the not too distant future. And no one else talks about this stuff, by the way. You have to come and watch it here on the UK column. And if you appreciate that, then we very much need your support. And you can go over to our website and find the membership section where you can make a donation, or you could take out a monthly, annual or lifetime membership where you get access to exclusive members benefits like the comments section on our website and the legendary chat box, which we sit here looking at as we do the live stream, so you can get a bit of interaction with us when we're doing the news. You could also head over to the shop and buy one of the first 2 editions of the exceptional Column magazine. It is a great read. I've been digging into it over the past couple of weeks, and actually it doesn't normally take that long to read magazines. This magazine is something you have to really invest time in.
It's brilliant. And as Mike has said many times, as you pick it up, there's a weight in your hand there. So a quality production, and I can say a huge well done to the UK Column editorial team that produced it.
Yeah, absolutely. Completely agree. Also, there's still some tickets available for our 20th anniversary, the event of the year, the 18th to the 20th of September. You can find them on our website. We're going to be in Plymouth. We're celebrating the column and all the fantastic work and people and memories that we've got from the past 20 years, or certainly that Brian and Mike do. Mine are a little bit more recent than that. Go grab a ticket. It's going to be great, and we hope to see you there. Coming up later this evening, we've got Germ's weekly banter session with Charles and Mike, asking the question, is progress a good or a bad thing? That is quite a good question. Maybe we talk about that in extra, actually.
As we're seeing with Andy Burnham, his sort of progress is definitely a bad thing.
It certainly is. And then at 9 o'clock, we have Carl Czar with a look into the AI race and China's AI exploding, with Silicon Valley being shocked, which has been ongoing for quite some time, actually. They really pulled ahead when DeepSeek came out last year, and it sounds like the trend has continued. So if you're interested in that, that'll be running tonight at 9 p.m. Now, moving on to corporate state capture and the control that the international banking elites and corporations are exerting over the British state, and actually more further afield than that too, but doing it through the UK government. And I want to introduce you to this organisation. This is the Regulatory Innovation Office. That's one of those titles that sounds really benign, but also absolutely terrifying at the same time, doesn't it?
It does. And you see this stuff being knitted together with the security services. And, we should be deeply concerned.
Deeply concerned, yeah. So this was a Starmer initiative launched at the end of 2024 and appointed very quickly after that the former science minister and also former universities minister, Lord Willits, as its chair. Now, I spoke last week about the Uniparty and the fact that there's really no difference in core policy terms between the Conservatives and the Labour Party. This is another great example of this, right? So Starmer comes in, introduces the office, the Regulatory Innovation Office, and then immediately appoints a Tory peer to run it, who's been in position since its inception, essentially, and is still in position today. And what is he up to? Well, he wrote a report outlining key achievements that they'd seen after the first year of operations. And this was quite extraordinary, actually. They've been extremely busy. They've engaged 150 businesses, and I'm going to pretty much guarantee you that those are all international corporations. They wouldn't have been talking to small businesses here. And they wanted to do that to surface regulatory barriers across science and technology. So they're actually going to the businesses that they're supposed to be regulating and asking them if there are any regulations that they'd like to remove. That kind of sums it up quite nicely, I think.
And it's becoming increasingly difficult to tell what is corporate business and what is government business, what's regulatory, what's not. This is all becoming I think I used the word synthesis earlier on.
Yes. Yeah. This is the integration of the power structures. What else have we got there? So if we can get that back on screen, we can see that they've engaged with 40 UK regulators to unlock regulatory barriers to innovation. So not only are they talking to the market, they're also going to the regulatory bodies. And I'm guessing that's pretty much all of the regulators in the UK have been tapped up by this organisation, by Lord Willits. Apparently, they've delivered over 100 billion of combined gross value add across our 4 priority sectors. I have no idea exactly how they're defining that, but they're claiming an enormous financial benefit into the UK economy. They're focused on space, drones, artificial intelligence in the health sector, and they're actually working with the MHRA to develop AI-powered tools to help regulatory experts make faster decisions. So get this, so patients can access safe and effective treatments sooner.
Ben, when you remember back to the COVID scam, but the reality was people were dying in large numbers during that period. And subsequently, and you look at the fact the MHRA absolutely did not do its job to keep patients safe. It simply worked in order to help the corporations make more profits out of their medicines. It's quite outrageous that this should be stated in this latest initiative.
Yeah. They describe themselves as a market enabler. We're not a regulator anymore. We're a market enabler. I think that's exactly the approach that we're seeing here. And then they're also, just the final point, that in engineering biology, they're helping to cut the amount of time that it takes to get novel foods into the food system.
Yeah, that's just what we don't need.
Yeah, engineering, biology, and foods. There's 3 words that should never be heard together. They're also, by the way, massively interested in robotics and defence and the military-industrial complex. There's also a parallel programme going on inside the UK government at the moment called Parlex. This is part of the AI innovation programme. I'm going to do a more in-depth study on this because it demands proper scrutiny. But just to point out that the way that the government is using AI at the moment, or one of the ways, is to work out how to write policy in a way that is more likely to get through Parliament. So actually they'll track people's voting records and the kind of language that they're using in speeches, and then think about ways that they can make policy more palatable to MPs.
More psychological manipulation again.
It's exactly what it is. Yeah, it is. Now, importantly, so this, we mentioned this came in under Starmer. Burnham is absolutely going to be aware of this, not least because Lord Willits is the chair, as well as the RIO of this organisation, the Resolution Foundation, which ostensibly is about lifting living standards in the UK. That sounds nice, doesn't it? And they were a co-sponsor of this event at the Labour Party conference in 2023, I think it was, alongside EY, my old employer. And you can see their logo up here. And one of the key people on that panel speaking was, as you can see in that picture, Andy Burnham. So he knows exactly who these people are, knows exactly who Lord Willits is. He knows exactly what he's doing, and that he's helping to stitch up the British economy for the benefit of
the corporatists.
The corporatists. Yeah, exactly. Go Labour. Fantastic. Okay, so look, we're going to bring things a little bit more down to earth. We talk a lot about geopolitics and the big things happening internationally, but just as importantly, and in fact, in many ways more importantly, are the things going on in our own postcodes. And I will say that I'm extremely lucky, living as I do today in Plymouth, to have this as my local park. This is Tothill Park in the St Jude's area of Plymouth. It is a fantastic little public park. It's got an amazing children's adventure playground. It is extremely popular with families, and it is exceptionally well kept as well. So the Friends of Tothill Park do an extraordinary job of keeping it clean. They litter pick every day. They're constantly out planting, tending, watering, and the whole thing looks phenomenal. And it's not just a great park, it's also a vital community hub, and there is a cafe and a community centre in the southeast corner of the park. And at the moment, unfortunately, that is being run out of this temporary structure because the local council, for some inexplicable reason, decided to come along a few months ago and say that the existing structure, which you can see here, so that's the cafe as it normally is in the centre, and then the community centre on the right-hand side where they do all sorts of activities. That's been there since the end of the Second World War. This was built by American service personnel as a thank you to the people of Plymouth for hosting them. And a few months ago, Plymouth Council came in and they decided that it's no longer safe and they're going to shut it down. And this has had an enormous knock-on impact on the local
So no
community.
discussion, they just come in and say, we're shutting it.
No discussion whatsoever. So I decided to go down there and have a chat to some of the local residents to hear what had been going on.
This calf is quite a nucleus for the people down here. Not just the calf, but the whole building itself is a big part of the community. And not so long ago, the council came down and or the fire brigade, and they did a quick inspection and decided that it wasn't up to standard anymore.
Right.
And they were going to close it, so they closed the whole building, which is a bit strange because Lucy, who runs the cafe, actually got a survey done by the council. She paid over £3,000, I think. She'll probably tell you that later on, to actually make sure that this place was fit for purpose. So she paid all that money to be told that it was fit for purpose, for them to come along a few years later and say, no, it's not for purpose, we're closing it. And at the moment, it doesn't look as though it's going to be open again anywhere near soon.
Right.
Because she's been badgering them to try and find out what's happening with the building, and she's just getting no answers. And of course, around here in St Jude's, we had places like the Saltram Club, the Friary, the Grenville, which were social places for people to go to, all gone. So in this area now, as far as I'm aware, apart from up at Mount Gould, there's nowhere for anybody to go and meet and sit down like we do. And there's quite a few, ex-servicemen who come down here, as well as obviously a lot of the local people who come down here. Quite diverse, lots of different people, different backgrounds, and that's why we sit here and have a good chat about all the different things we do.
I'll just say, Ben, really great to see you out there with local people. Now, I know already from comments coming into our chat box that some of our audience today are saying, yeah, it's terrible how councils do this, sort of messing up local people. We're going to join the dots as we move through this little report, because this isn't just a local issue. There's something actually much, much bigger going on here.
It certainly is, yeah. And I just think this is absolutely shocking. You've got a local business owner, Lucy, who runs the cafe, who moved in there about 3 years ago, and she actually paid out of her own pocket for a study to make sure that the building was up to regulation. And they've just come in and said 3 years down the track, oh, actually it isn't anymore. Nothing's changed, apart from someone in the council office has decided that, well, maybe they want to do something else with the space there. Who knows? Yeah. But I think the most important thing is that this is a crucial social place for people in the community to come together and spend time together.
Yeah.
And it's generally mothers and their children during the week, and then pensioners. So you get the younger generation and the older generation. It's a really nice place for them to come together and spend some time. There's a lot of people who live alone these days. During the winter months, it's actually a refuge for people, particularly with the cost of heating the home.
And they can't heat their own home.
Heat their own home.
Actually go somewhere warm and talk to people.
Exactly. So you can think, I'm going to go there for a few hours. I'm going to spend some time, going to meet some people. And it's amazing. It was so uplifting listening to local residents talk about the positive impact of the cafe and the community centre, and just quite how struck they've been by the council's decision to shut the whole thing down. Now, it's also, as well as just being a community hub, this is also the place where the Friends of Tothill Park, the people who tend to the flower beds and do the litter picking, store their tools and coordinate all of their efforts. And I had the opportunity to talk to Caroline, who was one of a group of, I believe, 12 ladies involved in the Friends of Tothill Park, about what they've been up to and the impact this has had on their work.
If I want to get a few strokes during the day, all I need to do is come out here and people stop and say, wow, we just love what you've done to the park, you and the team.
Yeah.
Please keep it up, because we make a point of coming here every day and bringing the kids, and we put labels around the new plantings so that people know what the flowers are called, and grandparents can bring the grandchildren and say, well, that's a Mexican daisy there, or
right.
So that's really nice.
Donations from people as well in the past, haven't we? Monetary donations to
absolutely.
Plant different things, and it really is, and can't express it, any better than it is an entire community down here.
Yeah, and people quite often who've been brought up here say, this park has never looked the way it does now. It just looks cared for, whereas before, even when the council did have a full complement of gardeners, I guess it was a lot more sort of municipal or something, but people didn't feel the same ownership that they seem to feel now.
So they've actually transformed not just the park, but the entire local area.
Yes, as a result of genuine community effort brought together by the community, people working together under their own steam.
Yes.
It's produced results.
Exactly.
Now,
it's just a beautiful example of what communities will do when left to their own devices.
Yeah. Now the city council comes in and effectively starts to smash it to pieces.
Yeah, because they don't control it. This is happening organically. And while at the same time, was it 35 million or 37 million pounds being spent on the centre of Plymouth to create a new park and water feature in the centre of the city, while actual communities are being disrupted and undermined? I don't know, was that a mile away, to the east of the city?
Yeah.
It's completely inexplicable. Like, there's no logical way to understand this, I would say. Can I just get the flower bed back on screen, by the way? So that was Caroline speaking on behalf of the Friends of Tothill Park. They do a fantastic job. I walk through this park every day, and I've got to say it is a really great place, not least due to their fantastic efforts. They've been running a petition. They actually had an online petition going, which got to about 2,000 names, but then apparently the council said that they wouldn't accept it. And they'd only accept a petition that was run through the council website.
Of course, because they only accept petitions that are going to say what the council want their petitions to say. This is what Andy Burnham was hinting about. You can ask me questions, but we will choose which questions we choose to answer.
Yeah.
It's the same policy.
Exactly. And then finally, let's just listen to a short clip from Pamela, the gangster granny. And what does this cafe mean to you?
It means everything.
Yeah?
Because, I've been here for 3 years now, and litter picking, and we met everyone down here. We started a garden committee that Paula and there's about 12 of us on the garden committee.
Yeah.
We've even planted some herbs for people if they want to cook with herbs, and one of the friends does all the labels for everything.
Yeah.
So you know what you're picking, and we come down and help water as well.
It's a beautiful park.
It is a beautiful park because we all look after it. And it means a lot, especially when it was cold. We used to come down and all sit together and have a coffee in there, and and sit together and talk about different things. So I was born and brought up in Plymouth, but it's certainly changed a lot.
Yeah.
I think maybe the government, who was supposed to be for the people, is not for the people anymore, is it?
I think that's certainly true. Yeah. That was a great little comment at the end there.
Government for the people is not for the people anymore. So this grandmother gets it. She understands what's happening politically, but Laura Kunsberg from the BBC absolutely hasn't got a clue what's going on.
No, she certainly doesn't. No, that was a great little clip there. And apologies for the background noise, but I think we could hear what everyone was saying and certainly get the sentiment of it. And I'll just point out a couple of local councillors who were mentioned while I was there. I'll just say let's give a little bit of recognition to Byron Driver, who is the brand new councillor, Green Party councillor for Sutton and Mount Gold for that ward. He's actually done some really good work by the sounds of it. And at the beginning of this process, the council wouldn't even acknowledge that anything had happened. So they shut the venue down, but then wouldn't even discuss it. So basically, no, nothing's happened at all. And he had to write a public letter. He wrote an open letter that finally got the council to actually acknowledge that something had happened here. So well done, Byron. Thank you very much for that. And I hope that you stay engaged in this, because this is a really important issue. And then I should also just note Sue Dan, who is also a councillor for the Sutton and Mount Gold ward, but she's for the Labour Party. And Brian, you seem to recognise Sudan. Is she a sort of old hand around here?
She's very long-standing, and I think many people would say formidable. I certainly, over the years, have not always agreed with her stance or the policies that she's backed. But on this issue, we, the UK column, are pointing out that where people start to do the right thing, they need recognition for it and support for it. This is how you challenge the system that's ultimately doing the wrong things. So, Sudan is very interesting to see her coming on board, because in doing this, she will be in direct conflict with the Labour leadership of...
Oh, she's not doing anything.
She's not doing anything.
Byron is doing something.
Right, okay.
Sudan is just a councilor in that ward.
Well, there we are then.
So maybe Councillor Dan, you should get involved in this.
Stand up to be counted.
Yeah, exactly. And if we could just get that back on screen quickly, I'll just leave a final comment here, which is reopen the centre. We need our cafe and our community centre on Tothill Park, and this is going on across the country. This exact approach of councils meddling and intervening with stable and valuable social systems appears to be part of the modus operandi of this emergent totalitarian state.
And this is going to magnify, it's going to increase under Andy Burnham, because what Andy Burnham is building is centralised control like we've never seen in this country before. Now, just to reinforce this angle, that where you're seeing local people and projects coming under direct attack, this is reason for this. This is the incoming political agenda. And I want to say that tomorrow at 1:00, we're going to be playing out my interview with Martin Brighton, the amazing man who took on Sheffield City Council for fraud and corruption. But his journey then eventually led him into the cover-up of child abuse, and subsequently he was raided by the police. So tomorrow, 1:00, that will be going out. We just listen to the clip again, because you can hear Martin Brighton describing this very system, beginning with what happened to his wife, who was involved in the community. Think about what Martin is saying, going back some 30 years in relation to what we've just seen happening in Plymouth. Here's the clip.
I do indeed, yes. The memory is when it kicked off, and just coming home one afternoon, we're talking about nearly 30 years ago now, and my wife was crying on the settee, and she'd been told that she wasn't going to be involved in the community centre anymore. She was no longer to be a volunteer. They were going to take her clients, the playgroup, and the building. And none of this was legal, but she wouldn't know, because someone from the council said it was all a done deal. Now, at that time, I was acting as an auditor. So I started asking the questions, where's all this coming from? And it was at that time, when I started to dig deep, that I realised that from central government top down, they were appropriating European funds and using it for their own agenda, not for the benefit of the people. And if anyone got in the way, they were removed.
So absolutely on the button. Incredible interview, extremely brave man. So join us tomorrow at 1:00 in order to hear what Martin had to say about the whole thing.
And he just described the same process.
Exactly the same process. The point we are making here on today's UK column news is don't underestimate the attack, the political attack on just individuals and community projects. This demonstrates the brutality that is coming with Andy Burnham's centralised power base and the mayoral system of city mayors. But I just had in here that I had an email from Martin in the last couple of days where he's posted detail about the fact that it's a year since all of his research, 30 years research, seized by South Yorkshire Police. They don't want the truth coming out about the financial corruption or the cover-up of child abuse. And in the text, Martin's also saying that secret meetings took place between South Yorkshire Police and the judge in his case. And so now Martin is asking whether he's got any chance of a fair trial or not. So this is the key thing, that basically when people do stand up, they are definitely going to come under attack. But if they've got enough support from other friends, family, and indeed the general public, then a very powerful challenge can be made. So don't underestimate your position at the bottom of the pile. When enough people stand together, they can achieve amazing things. Now, we just want to give another little mention to Rodney Atkinson. UK Column reported his sad death a little while ago, and I just want to say that the Times has finally caught up, but we described Rodney Atkinson as a fearsome campaigner, standing up for constitutional issues, but here he gets described as a Eurosceptic economist. So this is the Times effectively trying to undermine the memory of this incredible man. But if you have got a copy of the latest edition of the column, then you will see that I did put a report in this on Rodney Atkinson here. And amongst other things, you can read about him in his own words, because we decided to take his words from his website to describe him. And we're also going to say that if you go to the UK Column website, then Diane Rasmussen interviewed Rodney a little while ago, Solutions to Corporatist Fascism. There's the word, Ben. Fascism is spot on, and false political construct. And we think this might be the last interview that he actually did. So we're very honoured that Rodney decided to do that with us. And well done to Diane Rasmussen. Now, we're going to end just on the subject of the media. We're going to try and lighten the mood a little bit. Let's remember that the government of the United Kingdom has now been talking for some time about the suppression of social media, alternative new media, such as the UK Column, and giving more support, more funding to the likes of the BBC and the other big corporate media channels, because apparently they are the only channels that we should believe. So I've chosen a few clips here. There's two clips from the BBC. I think one is ITV. But let's have a look at how the BBC views itself. And very pleasing to see people mocking this clip as it was posted.
Apart from the traitors, Strictly raising 2.5 billion for charity, local news and radio, CBBS, contributing over 6.5 billion to the economy. Sir David Attenborough, Gladiators, Gavin and Stacey.
What has the BBC ever done for me?
Find out on BBC iPlayer.
Well, he doesn't realise it, but of course the BBC has effectively destroyed his mind, and the BBC is working hard to destroy the minds of children in this country. That's why the focus is so childish and cartoonish. But it's not just the BBC. This is another clip here where we're to get very sad that somebody, I don't even know who they are and I don't care, has had to leave Love Island.
The public have been voting to save one couple. The couple with the fewest votes will be dumped.
We don't know what's going to happen.
Exactly.
That couple is... Priya and Aidan. Please say your goodbyes and leave the villa immediately.
So while they're leaving the villa, basically the UK Column report talking about the important issues unfolding in UK, and the Love Island team are going to be caught up in it at the end of the day. So pathetic stuff being pushed out by the main channels to capture people's minds. But let's end with some really good news, and that is the BBC in further hot water as a result of closing down its part of its operation north of the border. Let's have a look at this report.
Well, BBC Scotland announced today that River City is to be axed after 20 years on our screens. They did say that it will have another 12 months before it's finally taken off air, but it certainly comes as a shock to many as well, especially the people here who work at the Dumbarton studios where River City is produced.
I don't really watch it, but to be fair, my nana and my granda watch it.
It's always been there, isn't it? It's Scottish telly. You can't get rid of Scottish telly.
And let's not forget the shows attract a wide range of celebrities.
But if you ask somebody who's maybe a bit older, probably a bigger deal to them.
It's a load of rubbish.
Why?
Because it's just nonsense. Same stupid stories as EastEnders and Coronation Street. Just nonsense. A waste of money, a waste of time. I used to watch it years ago, but now I never watch it because it's rubbish.
And that's part of the reason you presumably it has been axed.
Yeah, because nobody watches it and people's fed up with it. So, who cares?
So the man with the sunglasses gets my vote. Yeah. And of course, if more people vote by not paying the licence fee, the BBC is going to be even shorter over and above its 121 million shortfall at the moment. So lots we've reported today. Andy Burnham is a coup. There's no question of this. It's very, very dangerous. Can local communities do things? Yes, if they stand up and work together. And of course, can we hold mainstream media to account? Absolutely. If we do the right things, you want Image to finish on there.
Well, and the battle is in your local area as well. Indeed, I think we need to reinforce that to people. So yeah, just to wrap up, this was Haytor. Southeast, looking southwest towards Plymouth from Haytor on the weekend up in Dartmoor. Extraordinary.
Absolutely beautiful, and a clear blue sky, so that was nice to see.
Yes.
And people enjoying themselves. Some people, did find the heat a bit much, but of course no disaster as the BBC would have it.
No, certainly not.
More of it.
Yes, certainly. Right, okay, that's us for today. Thanks to everyone who's been tuning in live or watching back. Indeed, we love you all. For UK Column members, we'll be back in a few minutes for Extra. If you're not a member, you still have time to join, and we'll be back in about 5 minutes. It's great fun. Come and join us. Otherwise, Germ at 7 p.m. and Carl's are at 9 p.m. tonight. Brian's interview with Martin Brighton, 1 p.m. tomorrow. And failing all of that, we'll be back on Wednesday at 1 o'clock with the news. Until then, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.